I invite you to be seated. I wonder what it's like to be among the group of people who are scorned and looked down upon, and hear Jesus telling a parable, telling an allegorical story about their value. I can imagine a few different possibilities. Sometimes we don't appreciate being singled out as needy people. Needy people are other people. Needy people are the ones that we not needy people help. And while well-meaning, there's a power dynamic there. The haves and the have-nots. The okay and the not okay. And so, in one respect, I can imagine that it might have been uncomfortable to be among this group, these groups of tax collectors and sinners being singled out for special attention because of their deficiencies. There's another possibility, but I want to linger with that first one for a second. In another church I served, there was in the prayers one particular Sunday a prayer that was acknowledging, at least in its language, a universal human brokenness. And I had a really great conversation with a member of that church afterwards, and she said, "I don't like that prayer." And my personality being what it is, I said, "Oh, tell me more. Tell me what you don't like about it." And she said, "I don't like being called broken. I don't think that's very uplifting. I don't think that that is very helpful. I think that we should instead be focusing on the ways in which we are whole, the ways in which God is calling us into blessing, not on brokenness." I suspect also that that person might not so much like the hymn that is sung at all funerals, Amazing Grace. But I took that to heart, and I remembered that there is a certain aspect of having things that are not right called to attention. And Jesus is, as he usually does in these parables, turning the tables. He's saying, you know what? There's a reason why I'm giving particular attention. And even at the beginning of this passage, it says, all the tax collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to him. There was apparently something attractive to him. He was not a wag your finger kind of, you tax collectors and sinners need to get your house in order or else God is going to whatever. And so there was something that was a draw. And so I want to make that same pivot. I want to think about what it was that was attractive, why it was that not only Jesus was seeking out, but also there seemed to be a kind of reciprocal appreciation or attraction for that time that they were able to spend together. Because I'm not so convinced that there is an absence in some of our lives of brokenness, or of things that are not whole, or of places in which we fall short of the character or the life of God. But I am absolutely convinced that we either carry guilt and shame or denial about those things, or else we look upon those things and places as opportunities for growth and healing. And the way in which we carry that makes all the difference. And so in these two parables, he treats the ones that are lost, in one case a sheep, in another case a unit of currency, as something precious to be given special attention. as something to be celebrated when found. And when we can imagine God looking upon us in that way, precious and to be celebrated, it really can change the equation. Doesn't mean that guilt and shame completely go away, but it does mean that what it's like to be sought after by God becomes a gesture of love and caring instead of a gesture of being singled out for correction and rehabilitation. And so I wonder how you have experienced those places in your life. Societally, I know that there is ample incentive for us to hide those things because of the way that other people will label us or judge us. Just this past week, I was having a conversation with the liaison for the support groups that meet 6 days a week here at St. Stephen's and have been for decades. And we were talking about something that's coming up around scheduling and about possibilities for, a different kind of arrangement for one of the meetings. And he made the joke, well, we are alcoholics after all. And it was intended to be self-depreciating. And I understood what he meant in making this lighthearted quip. But I said, we're not going to do that. There's too much of that already. And what you just said, while I know that you're saying it from the inside and you're saying it with love, is said by other people on the outside with a wag of the finger and those broken people, not in a way of seeing what is precious, but in a way of dismissing them for their addiction. And so societally, there's all kinds of ways in which we are disincentivized to allow other people in to the places in our lives where there is brokenness in need of healing. But we need to be careful, and occasions like this gospel passage give us the opportunity to remember that God doesn't play the same game that we play with each other. God doesn't play the game of put on the best front that you can so you can impress other people and post the smiling images on Instagram and pretend like everything is all flowers and balloons. That's not impressive to God. It's impressive to many of us, but it's not at the heart of our relationship with the divine of the cosmos. So instead, we have the opportunity, and this particular gospel passage is revelatory in that sense, to the critics of Jesus. Why are you wasting your time with these miscreants? They were playing the, after all, they are alcoholics line. And Jesus was saying, we're not going to do that. Here's the way that God's beloved are beckoned even more into the fellowship of God's unconditional love. And if we buy that, if we allow ourselves to let down our guard that is conditioned to hide those places, and instead come to God saying, yeah, you know what? I'm not really proud about this place. I'm not really at my best in this kind of situation. God, meet me here. Then the language that is used in these two examples, there is more joy in heaven. There is joy in the presence of angels, is what we come to experience. And it's a wonderful turning of the tables. It takes that which for this member of this other church was a place of struggle and turns it into a place of growth. It takes that which gives us the guilties and transforms it into that which is a potential for joy. And so one of the most refreshing things that I appreciate about the Christian tradition, even in some of the language, especially in some of the language that acknowledges the hard places in life, is that it doesn't put a crosshair on those places in order to beat down the people of God. But it instead opens up the possibility for us to not run and hide, but instead to come forth and to be healed. And if you've ever experienced that kind of healing in your life, you know that it is more valuable than just about anything else. That it is more freeing and liberating, that it is more celebratory. And as a matter of fact, my friend, who's the liaison to the AA groups, has experienced that, and we've had conversations with each other about that deeply, about the joy and the liberation and the freedom that has come to him through commitment to recovery. But it's not only about addiction. It's about any of those places in our lives and all of the places that we experience in one way or another in which there is a distance from God that is yearning to be closed. So my encouragement to you is to think about what it is like to be singled out by God for something that's not perfect and Instagrammable in your life as a gesture of love. To be singled out and known and to be beckoned and welcomed as an opportunity to be the best self that God has created you to be, to experience the wholeness of life that lies available for us when we take that step forward. It is actually a privilege instead of a stigma to be able to be acknowledged as a sinner or someone who's broken, because it is not a sentence of condemnation, but it is instead an invitation to be healed. I'm one of those people who for a long time didn't really like the hymn Amazing Grace, that saved a wretch like me. I am not a wretch. That is some harsh language. But I've come to soften a little bit on that. The language is no less harsh, but I have come to learn that in intimate life with God, there has never been a place where God has said, I can't stand you. I'm done with you. You just offend me so much that I'm out of here. We don't get that kind of rejection in our relationship with God. And that is what unconditional love means. It is rare in our experiences in other spheres in our life, but it is a constant and it is reliable in our relationship with God. So take the risk. Take the risk of opening yourself up in those vulnerable places, in those places that are barriers, bringing those to God and saying, I'm ready to move past this. I'm ready. Meet me here. Heal me. Let's start planning for the celebration in which there is a time when we look back on this place in life and realize that what was absent, what was lost, is now present, is now found, and let there be much rejoicing in heaven over that step up. Amen.